Welcome to another episode of Do You Really Know God? This week we're changing up a little bit. We're going to pretty much just talk about the podcast and the goals and the reasoning behind it. Don't know if it'll be a full hour long tonight or if it'll be a little bit shorter. We'll see. First, I'm going to read a verse from Matthew. It says 1. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others, to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. Chapter 6, 1 through 20 of Matthew is actually a really good verse to study in the Bible, because it's basically all about praying and giving your prayers and how to pray. And it has your Lord's Prayer in there and how to properly do it. I think that's a very strong thing to study in the Bible, is how to pray to God, because a lot of people don't know how to pray to God.
Plus, it's such a big part of your relationship with Him.
It's how you build your relationship. It's the best way to build a relationship.
It's just like you're not going to build a relationship with someone if you don't talk to them.
Exactly. So the Lord's Prayer and all that, and that part of Matthew is very powerful about learning to basically talk to God, pray to God, listen to God, and proper ways of doing it so you can build your relationship with God.
Yep.
Part of this podcast, like we talked about, we're going to talk about the podcast a little bit tonight. We created it for multiple different reasons. One of the reasons is most of my life I did not go to church. It's always been very spiritual, very religious. I read the Bible multiple times, plus multiple different Bibles. I now go to church because I found a good church that I like. But I did have a lot of bad experiences going to church. And some of the bad experiences is a lot of judgmental in churches. Different churches, different judgmentals. And I had problems with wrapping my brain around, like some churches are all black church and all Hispanic church or all white church, or this church allows military, this church don't allow military. So I've had a lot of things in my head of, okay, who should I follow? Who's right? You start really reading the Bible, they're all wrong. Because the church has no color. The church don't have no race. Church don't have no language. Or the Bible don't. So they're all basically wrong in some shape, forms, or others. And I know they mean well in their own little ways, but I do know, like myself, there's a lot of people out there that want to know God and really want to get to know God, but they don't know how. And they don't want to go to church because they're afraid to be judged.
Yeah, and we've talked about it, little bits and pieces here and there on the podcast of, like, you know, why we created it and what our end goal really is, but we just kind of want to make a whole episode about it. That way, any confusion can be wrapped up in one listen.
And people can understand what our purpose and goals
are
going forth with this. Like me, I used to, like, back years ago when I lived in Connecticut, because I never went to church up there, because I couldn't find a church I liked, anything like that. But one thing I did do is I used to watch late night church on TV.
Like the evangelists and stuff?
Kind of like that, yeah, some of them. And I'll never forget, I cannot remember the pastor's name, it was a female pastor. Every night, I can't remember what station it was, but right about 2 a.m., she was on from 2 to 3 a.m. I used to watch her almost every night. She's in a church in California.
Okay.
And I can honestly say, if I knew where that church was or it was close to me, I would have gone to her church, because she had some really good teaching and she spoke the Bible. She didn't spoke hypocrite. She did not speak about, oh, just give me money. She didn't speak of you have to do this or you're going to hell, you're damned to hell. She didn't do that. She spoke the Bible and truth about the Bible. And it was very fascinating. I remember watching her for probably 2-3 years straight, and then they changed channels around and that, and it wasn't on no more. But I remember watching her every single night before I went to bed. Some of the things, like my goals and your goals, what we talked about with this podcast, one is we want to reach the people that need to be reached.
Right.
We don't judge. You know what? We don't care what your background is. We don't care what sins you're performing now. To us, that is between you and God.
Right. Exactly.
And it is right in the Bible, thou shalt not judge. We are not here to judge.
There's only one judge, and he is the one true God.
And he is the one who's going to judge you. It's my job not to judge you, but to teach you, to lead you, to offer you the holy water, and to help you make it to salvation. That is our calling. That's my calling. That's Devin's calling. That's every person on this planet's calling.
Right.
And that's some of the things that our podcast is aimed to try and do, is help these people, or help you people that don't go to church but want to know more about God.
Well,
want to be saved. And
one of the things is, me personally, ever since I was a young kid, I've always liked the I don't want to say I like to be the center of attention, but I like to be that comic relief.
Yeah.
That person who, where, like, the room's kind of heavy and everyone's, stressed or upset. I'd be the one sitting there cracking jokes.
Yeah.
And because of that, I remember when you did ACN, you got a laptop with a little webcam in it. Yeah. And I used to go on there and I'd make stupid videos. I even remember when you had that shop in 5th Dimension. And these videos are still on YouTube too. I put them up on YouTube. And there's a few different videos. There's like one with me and my sister and my cousin, and we're recreating iCarly. There's one where I took people around a tour of the shop. And I've just always been that kind of entertainer person. And so this YouTube and like with making my music and all that just kind of comes natural to me. And I remember I started making this channel, which is just a platform for a ton of different people who might not be able to get the audience they want to come on one place. And as of right now, you're the only other channel other show aside from my music on there. But I remember you talking about you want to start a podcast.
Yep.
And then one day we actually sat down and planned it and was like, okay, this is what it's going to be called. This is what, we're going to talk about. And X, Y, and Z. And we got a plan for the first month, right?
The foundation.
Yeah. And then we shared it everywhere. I remember sending it to people I haven't talked to in years, and they're like, what are you sending me? I was like, oh, my dad and I started a podcast. But one of the biggest things I always tell people is this is more your podcast than anything. Because
I feel my calling is, some of my calling is to get God out there.
Right.
And to make him known. Because he did say in the Bible, you go to all nations and preach to all creatures.
Right.
And I'm a strong believer in that. And Jesus also said that you don't have to be like a holy man, per se, like a priest or nothing like that to preach the word of God or the Bible. You just have to be a follower of God. He also made it, when Jesus came down to earth, he also made it so you do not have to go to a church to pray.
Right.
Where before Jesus, it was known that you had to either go to Jacob's well or to the synagogues.
Right. There were certain places you could
to go pray and
worship and
worship
all that, yeah.
God. And Jesus said, you don't have to do that. He also gave us all free will of the fact of any man can baptize. Any man can preach. So long as you preach the true word of God.
Yep.
Granted, there are a lot of false teachers out there. 100%. A lot of false teachers out there. And he even predicted that was going to happen. And there's also a lot of false prophets. Like if you watch on TV, some of these evangelists that they put their hand on their head and they push the people and you are healed. You are now healed. And these people get up and walk and...
Right.
That's fake. 100% fake. And that's a known thing that's fake. They're in it for the money. I'm not in it for the money. I don't want no money from anybody. I'm in it to make my mission to reach as many people as possible like Jesus asked me to do.
Yeah.
I feel very connected with God. Very connected. Am I a perfect human being? Absolutely not. I am far from a saint. I do sin.
Mm-hmm.
As do every other person on this planet.
Yeah.
I have people on my Facebook all the time, and I preach a lot of Bible quotes on my Facebook. And I'm talking a lot of Bible quotes. And every now and then, there will be a meme that comes up, or somebody will say something, and I'll love it. And maybe it's a little inappropriate or whatever. And it's funny because I have people go to my wall or private message me and say, Chris, how can you be so holy but like that? Because the simple fact, just because I'm holy, and just because I love Jesus, and just because I love spreading the Bible and spreading love, I'm still human. Don't mean I can't like something that's funny, even if it is a little off the biblical path.
Right.
We'll say. It's funny. Don't mean nothing. I got yelled at and lectured by a girl that I went to school with. She private messaged me because I liked somebody's comment that about these protesters if they come to your house or whatever and whatever they do. And he's like, I'm just waiting for it to happen. I'll beat him with a bat. And I liked the comment. And she gave me a big lecture of how I'm holy. I shouldn't be liking comments about people beating people. I never said I was going to beat them, but you know what? You come to my house. My locks are on my door for your protection, not mine. You break in, it's all gloves off.
And that's actually one of the things that pushed me away from church more than anything was that. Now, this female obviously doesn't go to our church or anything. She's from Connecticut. But it's just the simple fact of because I go to church and because people know my religion and my beliefs, they feel that they have the right to put me in my place. Whereas I have claimed I'm not perfect. There are plenty of things I have done, plenty of things I will do in the future that maybe as a Christian shouldn't have been done or could have been done better. But in the end, I'm an imperfect human. There was only one perfect human to walk this earth, and that was Jesus Christ.
Our Lord.
And that's the biggest thing for me is when people, like, whoever this was that commented on your thing, I guarantee you she was not perfect.
Oh, I can tell you a lot of stories of
she had no reason to go and correct you. You know what I mean? It's not like she is so much better than you.
I get it. She did inbox me and she said that. She did say that she didn't want to do it on the wall because she didn't want to embarrass me or have a big thing. But I should look at my image I'm upholding of one way and then like in another. And I get it. People look at you when you preach holy or whatever, and they look at you as you got to be perfect. But there ain't no pastor, there ain't no priest, there ain't no deacon, there ain't no minister out there that's 100% perfect.
Right.
We all make mistakes. We're still human. Now, here's the thing is when people sat there and trying to say about being perfect. I mean, we all try and live by God's rules in a 100% perfect world. It never happens because, you know what? 90% of what we do is a sin. Technically, you going out getting a haircut is technically a sin. Because you are not supposed to modify your body in any way, shape, or form, and that includes hair.
Right.
I can't remember his name in the Bible. There's that one guy that he's the world's strongest person to ever live, and he always had this strength so long as he never cut his hair. And he never did until towards the end. He fell in love with a girl, and she got close to him, and she cut his hair, and he lost all his strength because God took it away because he cut his hair.
Yeah.
Because he basically did a sin that God made as a no sin for him.
Right.
Now, even though he didn't cut his hair, somebody else did, but he let them get close enough. But here's the biggest thing I gotta say. People tell me, oh, you do this, you're going to hell, or, oh, you mean you did that, you're going to hell, and it's like, Jesus Christ walked with a hooker.
Mm-hmm.
He walked with an adulterer.
Yep.
He walked with a murderer. He walked with a thief. He walked with a damn tax collector, which back in the time, the tax collector was worse than the devil. The Satan was more welcome in the town than the tax collector.
Right.
Matthew was a tax collector. Every one of his disciples was a major sinner, not no small sin. We're talking major sinners. Jesus Christ loved them the same. And he healed them of their sins and took their sins away.
Right.
That shows to me that we're human, we're gonna sin, but Jesus is gonna help us so long as you love him. And that's another thing I wanted to create this podcast over is there's a lot of churches really down people, and it saddens me. Like if you go into most churches as a prostitute and be a known prostitute and tell them, yeah, I'm a prostitute, I'm working every night, they're not gonna let you become a member of the church because you're creating a big sin. If you go into a church and you got a different girl each week going with you to church, you're not going to be allowed to be a member of that church.
No, and those are the people we need to take in the most.
Those are the people, like Jesus said, the sinners who sin the most are the ones who need God the most.
Right.
So those are the people that we need to take in and take under our wings and help show them the light. And that's another reason why I'm creating this podcast is we don't hold no judgment on you. We're all sinners. We understand we're all sinners.
Oh yeah, and the thing is it even just goes beyond being sinners. We're people. You know what I mean? We're all human beings, and like you've done some stuff that if would have is a sin or whatever. I know I have. There isn't a single person on this earth who can 100% honestly say I have never sinned in my life.
Everybody has sinned. I sinned about 100 times a day. At least.
Right.
It's a matter of life. We all sin. There is so many things in the Bible that is considered a sin. Small little things. Swearing is a sin, technically. I swear like a sailor most of the time. That's a sin. Is it a big major downfall sin? No. It's nothing like being a murderer or pedophile or anything like that. It's a minor offense. It's a misdemeanor of sins. But the big thing that I want to do is I understand a lot of people want to know God. And I talk to people all the time who love God, know a little bit about God, and want to know more, but they don't want to go to church because they don't want to be judged, because they've been divorced or whatever, or their lifestyle ain't exactly the best, or they're hooked on drugs and they want to get clean and that, but they want to go to church, but they don't want to go to church and be judged because they use drugs or whatever the case may be. A lot of people don't go because they don't want to be judged. And I get it, because I've been there. at a point in my life where I wouldn't go to church because every time I did, I felt I'd being judged. And that's one of the reasons why I like Rockfish Church a little bit. Is when I walk in, I don't feel like I'm being judged.
No, everyone's very friendly.
But number two, I can go in my work clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I can go in with my beat-up jeans, and they still welcome you. They don't do that. Where a lot of churches, if you're not in your best dress, you're not welcome in. You gotta be in a suit and tie and all. You know what? I'm not a suit and tie person. I just don't wear suit and ties every day. And for me to be a hypocrite and have to go with a suit and tie, Jesus Christ never walked around in a suit and tie. Hate to say it, he didn't.
No, and actually that's one of the things. Rockfish is almost too friendly. You know, you're walking up, you're not even inside yet. They have this little shelter thing that you walk into. The greeting area. You walk up and there's a people at the table for the first time guest there, and they hand them a blue bag and they pretty much show them the ropes. You know, like this is where the bathrooms are and all this, and they're even if you've been there 1,000 times, you walk up, hey, how are you? And they greet you, and then you walk through and you see, you know, everybody sitting at tables, getting their tea,
There's people that I first see or for the first time, and you swear to God they've known me all their life.
Exactly, and like you go through, and right at the door you have the greeters. They hand you, you know, the sermon notes, and like, hey, how are you? And you know, how have you been lately? And then you walk through the doors, and then you usually have Mr. John or, you know, someone right there, you know, giving you a handshake, giving you a hug, whatever it is, and it's just a very friendly atmosphere. Like,
they're very friendly and very open, but they do it right in a sense of God never said that you have to go get in your Sunday best to go to church.
Right.
He just said go to church, go pray, do something. He never said you need to go get dressed up and go to... No. And that's what I like about Rockfish. They don't sit there and beat you down that you better be dressed up in your suit and tie and women better have that Sunday dress on. No, come as you are. Just come. Just come on in, no matter how you are.
And that's another thing I like about our podcast is, you know, you could be sitting there fully naked, laying in bed, listening to it.
Exactly.
And like, there's you know... It's not a thing. Like right now obviously this is gonna change when we start doing video. But like right now, I'm literally just wearing sweatpants and no shirt while we're recording.
Yeah.
Like it's a
disturbing sight, but
it's different. Like,
but the thing is when you talk to God and when you get to know God, He's not about how you dress. He does not see you in human form, and that's what people don't understand.
Exactly.
He's not seeing you in your form. You could be naked. It doesn't matter. He's not seeing you that way. He's seeing your soul.
He doesn't see your physical body.
He sees the inside of you. He knows the inside of you. And one thing in this is a known fact is Jesus even says it in several different parables. Parables. Why did I say parodies?
You do it all the
time. Too many movies. The human heart is evil. It was made and it went evil. What's pure in your body is your soul. So you need to get your soul and listen to your soul, because that's where the Holy Ghost is. And you can't follow... This is one thing that I kind of mix with the Bible and when I talk to people about love. Like when people ask about whatever. How do you know what true love is? And the dumbest phrase I've always heard, and when I was younger, I used to use it all the time myself, okay, young and dumb. Oh, I love you with all my heart. You know what? Somebody says that to me now, that's an insult. 'Cause your heart is evil. Your heart don't care.
Right.
Your heart's onto what they like now.
Versus
tomorrow is going to change.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody says, I love you with all my soul, now that means something. You got to think about it. When we die, it's our soul that goes on to heaven. Okay?
Right.
Not our body. Never guess what's in your body. Your heart. Your heart dies with your body. It stays in the earth.
Right.
Your soul moves on. So to me, if somebody says, I love you with all my soul for all of eternity, that means you're going to love me even in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says, I love you with all my heart. Hell, that could be till tomorrow.
Right.
Or that could
In
be
an hour from now.
That could be when you die. It don't matter. Your heart's dead. It's in the soul. It's in the dirt. You're done. That don't mean nothing to me. But knowing, like reading in the Bible, how the heart is basically evil. The heart is very evil thing. Obviously, it's a very necessary thing because it's what keeps you alive and pumps your blood. But it's very evil. It's your soul that is actually very holy.
Right.
And the problem with people and why we sin so much is we follow our heart more than we follow our soul.
Yeah.
And there's just so much in the Bible that people don't understand. And there's a lot of churches that don't touch on a lot of this stuff. Churches tend to get their like little segments that they're stuck on, and they usually like take a certain thing like Book of Matthew or Book of John, and they'll spend 3 years on Book of John, picking it apart. Then they'll go on to another book for the next 3 years. Problem is there is so many different books in the Bible. You're dead before you get through half the Bible.
Yeah.
So you're not touching on enough. So what I like to do is I'm trying to get with this podcast is each week get little tidbits of different things. So we get some of the important stuff of the Bible out to the people.
That, and hopefully, with what we talk about, or with, maybe it's the verse that we said this week that you liked. It inspires you to go do your own research and to go look into it by yourself in your free time.
Exactly. And I'm not gonna do read a Book of Matthew and break it apart, a Book of John, because you're talking year time.
Right.
To really disciple, like Book of Matthew, we did at Rockfish Church. It was 3 years it took to go through that entire book.
And it was actually funny because, so when we first moved here, it took us about 6 months to actually go to church again, or for the first time, really, as a family. And then after that 6 months, it took us about a year or two to actually start going on Wednesday nights when they did the Bible study and stuff.
Yep.
And then, if I remember correctly, we were actually in Matthew when we started going to Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I remember because I used to go to the youth. I'd come home, sit in the car, you and Mom would be sitting there, and be like, how was church today? Oh, we did Book of Matthew. Didn't you do that the last 10 weeks?
It was 3 years it took.
And we just finished it a couple months ago.
Yep. It took
right before COVID hit, yeah.
It took 3 years to go through the Book of Matthew. And because nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a very in-depth book.
Oh, yeah, and they went through it very thoroughly.
Very thorough. And that's great. But somebody going to church, say, especially if you start going to that church and you're a little bit older, how many books are you going to make it before you're dead?
Right.
And then you actually get the meaning that you need to be saved for God.
Right.
That's why I'm not big.
You have to have that variety.
That's why I'm not big. I try and research and we're trying to pull subjects for each week for the podcast. And that's why in the comments we always ask you, give us ideas, because sometimes we want to put out there what you want to hear.
That, and what's weighing on our heart doesn't mean it's weighing on your heart.
Exactly.
Because we're not going to tell you about what we need to hear, because we're the ones telling you about it. We know what we need to hear. It's what do you need to hear.
But on top of it, we need to know where you are in your life and what you need to hear. Because everybody's at different stages of life. And, I want to, if I want to talk about Revelations, maybe some of you guys ain't ready to hear about the rapture. But, some of you guys might be ready to hear about salvation, of how do I get saved so I can go to heaven. So, that's why we ask for comments and different stuff like that. Of what are you looking for? What don't you know about the Bible? What do you need to know? And we are Christians. But with this podcast, I'm going to talk about God, period. Now, one thing, maybe, and I'll probably get blasted for this from a bunch of people because I do add some of my own thoughts and theories and a little bit tidbits of what I know. Because I am well versed in not just the Christian Bible, Catholic Bible, Jewish Bible, and the Quran, and a little bit of the Hindu. One thing I can say about almost every Bible, I also not really read the Bibles of a lot of other religions, but I got friends who are different religions, who are Muslim, who are Jewish, who are whatever. Almost every religion I got friends in, and we talk about our different religions and kind of compare stuff. And one thing that I have noticed between every religion, nobody contests believing in God. We all believe that there's a God. And if you know anything about God, God has 326 names. Believe it or not. It says it right in the Bible that he has. I think that's the exact number, 326 names. Might be a little bit more. If you listen to a lot of names, it's what other Bibles call him. So we're all worshiping the same God. Like the Muslims are worshiping the same God the Christians are, the Jews,
just with the different
Catholics.
names.
We're just calling them a different name, but it's the same God. The biggest difference between most of the Bibles that I read and the people I talked to with different religions is different beliefs about different stuff, like the Jewish, they don't believe in Jesus Christ as being the Messiah. They believe more off of Moses, more off of David, in the Old Testament. And they base everything off the Old Testament. They don't believe in the New Testament. They don't believe that Jesus was any more than a teacher. But they still believe in the same God. The Muslims believe in the same God. Again, in the Quran it talks about Jesus. But they see Jesus as a teacher. But they see Muhammad as a prophet and as the Messiah. So they see a different Messiah as what the Christians see and the Catholics see. And in a Christian book, in the regular Bible, it talks about Muhammad. There's Muhammad's in the Catholic book and in the Christian book. But he's only a teacher. He's not the Messiah. So there's a lot of different religions. We all believe in the same God. We just all believe in a different Messiah.
Right.
Now, what makes Christians, in my opinion, more right about Jesus being the Messiah is there's a lot more proof that he was. A lot more evidence, physical evidence, scientifically proven evidence. There's a lot of scientific proof about him being born. And there's definite proof, scientific and historical proof, that when he was born, the king went out killing all the babies because he knew that the Messiah was born. And that was right around the same exact time that Jesus was born. There's known proof that Jesus died as crucifixion. And he was arrested by the Jewish high priest, and they were hitting him with blasphemy, which means he was
being a false god.
Being a false god is what they pretty much went. But there's also 100% proof, actual proof that he's actually made people walk. There's proof he healed lepers. There is proof that he brought a couple people back from the dead. I don't know about you, but that don't sound too false God to me. And even though Jesus, when in his teaching says we all have the same power to do what he did, I don't know about you, but I've yet to be able to pull anybody back to life.
If I could, I would have by now.
I have my own pains I can't heal. Never mind heal somebody else's leprosy. So, I don't feel I have the same power as him. But, there is scientific proof and historical proof that he did the miracles he actually did, where Muhammad never did miracles. Believe it or not, Muhammad, he was a butcher. He used to kill and rape people in the name of God. And he's a conqueror.
That's a little twisted.
It is. And he's a conqueror. David and Moses and all them, they never ever claimed to be a Messiah. They've only claimed to be prophets that God was talking to them. And there's proof that, yeah, God did talk to them. 100%. There's a lot of proof of that. So the Jewish ain't right. I ain't wrong. They just left out the actual first coming of the Messiah. But the Jewish thinks that he hasn't come yet. And that he's gonna come. But basically, just as a quick summary on that is, just because you're one religion don't mean you can't listen to another religion. Because we're all talking about the same God in the end.
Yeah.
It's just more of a matter of fact of who the Messiah is. And the only true Messiah is Jesus Christ. He's the only one that's historically and scientifically proven.
So now that we talked a little bit about the podcast and the goals, what was your coming to God story? Like what made you believe, and what made you want to do something about it?
I have actually a couple coming to God stories. Because I've had a couple falling outs with God. I've always been a strong believer of God, even as a child. And a lot of it was my grandmother always preached a lot of God. And when she passed away, the night she passed away in the hospital of cancer, she came visited me, my brother, and my sisters in the house. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning when she passed away. She actually showed up and said goodbye to us all. I was young then. I think I was like 8, 9 years old. So right there I knew there was God. And I was a strong believer in God. And I always praised God. And I think that's when I first started reading the Bible. The first time. Never went to church. But then I got into teenagers. You know how that goes. Where I still love God and all that. Don't get me wrong. But he wasn't like the priority as he should have been. But believe it or not, I had a big falling out of God when Auntie Dawn died. When Auntie Dawn died, and then when Gramps died, within a year, I've had some words with God that probably wasn't so nice. And
Probably was it, or was it?
It wasn't so nice. And I actually had a big falling out of God to the point where I was almost to the point of atheism. I will honestly admit to that it was a very tough time in my life for several years where I didn't want to hear nothing about God. Really, Ralph? I didn't want to hear nothing about God. And I was really, really distraught. And believe it or not, it was probably like, I have to say for like 4 or 5 years after that. And I had a moment in my life where it just seemed like nothing was going right. There's a lot of bad just happening in my life. And I wound up having a breakdown, kind of, sort of. And it was actually like working on a race car. And it was like nothing was going right on the build, going together. And it was before the race season started, but the race season was coming up quick. Couldn't find sponsors. There was just, everything was going wrong. And it was late at night, and I was working on the race car, and I remember stopping and kind of praying to God and saying, hey, I know I've been in trouble over the years, and I apologize for the way I've acted, but I said I was very hurt. You took my sister. I know that you needed her, and then you took my father, and I know you needed him. I'm like, and ever since I stopped really talking to you, there's been nothing but bad going on in my life. And when I say bad, just kept on happening. It was just bad happening like every single time I turned around. And I apologized, and I had probably a good 3-hour conversation with God. And next day, I went to work, and I got a call. And it was, believe it or not, Mr. John Pepin, saying, hey, I want to sponsor your race car this year.
Was this the first year?
Huh?
Was this the first year that he sponsored?
The first year that he sponsored me. And I was like, wow. So we talked, and he wanted to pay me and buy me a bunch of parts for the race car. And I was like, wow, that's weird, that's strange. And then that night, I went back home, and everything like fell together with the race car. It seemed like everything fit perfect. There wasn't nothing. I got the most accomplished in that one night than I did the past 3 months.
Right.
And it was like just everything going together, and it just started popping in my head of, wait a minute, what's going on? And then remember, it was like a dream, and I remember dreaming talking to God. And in the dream, I had a good conversation with God. And I remember in the dream, he came to me and he said, hey, I forgive you for the way you were, because I understand. He goes, I gave my son to your planet to understand what it's like to be human. And he goes, I understand the hate and the pain that you went through. He goes, but you needed to get to your next level, and now you're getting back. And then I remember next morning I said a prayer. I went to work, and I remember because I went back to work, it was a job that I really didn't like. It was really going downhill. And I went to work, and I got a call from another job that was closer to home to make more money. Closer to home. I was working way out in Herb Chambers at the time. And I remember Putnam Chrysler called me saying, hey, we got to open and we want you to come. So I went after work, I sat down, I talked, I took the job, and I got a job closer to home. And now I'm thinking, I'm like, man, thinking about it, I'm like, over the past couple of years, I really hated God. And my life really went downhill. So now I'm kind of okay with God, I'm getting back on good terms with God. Things are like flipped like a light switch.
Right.
It's like I can do no wrong now. And that's when that was the second time I actually read the Bible. And I started reading Bible every night and going over stuff, but it was just an eye-opener, and I really apologized to God, and I really, to this day, I apologize for my action for that short little bit of time that I had where I wasn't so nice to him and I wasn't liking him too much.
Right.
And in that time, actually, why I was not liking him, I had a lot of people who I didn't even know were religious. Really. I found out that they were, and they wound up coming to me and saying, hey, Chris, really shouldn't blame God for this. Yeah, God did take them. They did die, but they're in a better place now, because they're in the afterlife. They're in God's heaven, and that's 10 times better than the earth. And I remember them always telling me that, and I was like, get out of here with your godly crap. And I remember being that way, and once I made amends with God and I think about it, how miserable I was, I don't think in that time that I hated God that I even had a happy day with myself type of deal.
Right.
I actually went for a long time, like the whole time, I never even came to terms to Dawn being dead. It wasn't even until after I got back with God and started talking to God regularly, and that when I actually came to the terms of, you know, she's always been an angel. Now she's a real angel in heaven, where she belongs, with no pain. So it actually gave me a big wake-up call about what it was about with God, and that's when I think when I really got the meaning of, because before all that bad happened, I always thought God was God of love.
Right.
God was God of, He loves His children. He won't let nothing bad and all this. So when that bad happened to me, I got the misunderstanding part of God kind of taken out of me. And by that being taken out of me, and that's one of the problems with people. They say, oh, God is a God of love, and He don't cause no bad things to happen. And that's wrong. He does cause bad things to happen. He does cause people to die.
But it's to get you on the right path.
And there's a purpose behind it. It's tough love. And the problem is before all that happened to me, it was never put to me like that. It was always put to me that God is such a nice God, and God don't do no bad things to you. So when bad things happen to you, you tend to hate God now. It's like, why are you doing this to me? You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be a God of love. And that's another reason with this podcast is I like a lot of Pastor Dan and Pastor Tony's talking, is they'll tell you right out, God is not always going to give you what you want. Sometimes He's going to slap you in the back of the head. It's part of life. He's going to slap you in the back of the head. People are going to die. He's going to take them. And that's part of the plan. He has a plan for each and every one of us. Don't mourn the people that He's taken, because He's bringing them to a better place. Their time on this earth is over with, so He's bringing them to a better place. People mourn not so much to mourn the people that are dead. They mourn themselves because it's self-pity. Because they don't want to be without that person. But what you got to understand is it's better for that person, because now they're in heaven. They're in eternal life now. They got no more pain. They got no more anything. No more racism to deal with. No more insecurities. No more pain. No more suffering. No more hunger. They got love, eternal love. They got eternal health. They got eternal life. It's what we all want. It's what we're all aiming for. But yet we still cry and mourn over the dead. When really, if you think about it, we're crying and mourning over our own selfishness, because we just don't want to be without them. I came to a lot of that terms afterwards. And believe it or not, and people call me crazy or whatever, there's been many times since where before Auntie Dawn died and that, I've always believed in God. I always talked to God and always did my stuff there. But I think only once or twice in my life prior to Dawn's death did I ever feel that God talked back to me. Once or twice. Where after that little spout that I had with God, we'll call it a lover's call, and I came back to God and started back on the path of God, He comes back and talks to me a lot. I hear Him a lot. In some shape or form, whether, like, He don't come down and say, hey, Chris, let's go have a cigarette and talk about this. It's not that. It's simple little things, though. Even if it's a dream of, you need to do this. Or a feeling of, just, this don't feel right, but that does.
Well, and one thing that's crazy is, because I asked you that question, expecting to answer it myself, but I honestly, I can't pinpoint a single moment where it was like a real coming to God moment. You know what I mean?
But you're still young.
And that's the thing is, like, So when Auntie Dawn died, and when Gramps died, I was really young. I was, 3 and 4?
Uh-huh.
And, now, granted, it's still, like, even to this day, it hits hard because it's not like they were just family members you see on Christmas.
No.
I saw both of them every single day.
Yeah.
And I had real relationships with the both of them.
Yep.
And then, one day they just don't come back. And I remember Auntie Dawn especially messed me up because she was leaving for work. She was leaving from Emme's house. And she said, I'll see you tomorrow. And then, obviously, she got in the car crash and
yep.
never saw her again. And so, all the big tragedies in my life happened when I was young.
Yep. But you coming to God don't have to have a tragedy involved. But here's the thing, though. A lot of people don't realize this. A lot of preachers will not admit this. Nobody does 100% follow God from birth to death.
Right.
Everybody has that point of love God, hate God. Love God, hate God. Love God, hate God. We all experience it. But you got to hit that time when you're done with the love-hate and you're all into love.
Right.
And that's your coming to God moment, pretty much. That is your true coming to God moment, is when you actually get to the point where you ain't going to hate God no more. And you ain't going to question anything of God. Anytime you're questioning God, you're still in that love-hate mode,
Right.
Once you're in full love mode, you will not question a thing he does, and you're going to trust him with every decision he makes, no matter how good, bad, or painful, or whatever. You're going to know that he has a purpose to it.
Well, and honestly, I would have to say my coming to God moment was probably with Mem in basic. Because with all of my big, death tragedies and all that type of stuff happening when I was so young, it was a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was a curse because, it messed me up mentally for, still to this day with stuff. But even it was a blessing because I was young. I didn't fully understand.
Yep.
It wasn't until I was, 7 or 8 till I realized, wait a minute. And that's, so I kind of had those innocent years where, yeah, it hurt, but I could get my mind taken off of it.
You
Yeah.
get over it a lot easier.
And so that happened, but when I was in basic with Mem, I remember, and I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I went to church every Sunday in basic.
Yeah.
And so what happened was there was 4 or 5 companies, I can't remember how many, in my battalion for basic. So there's Alpha Company, which I was in. There was Bravo, Charlie, Echo, and Foxtrot.
Yeah.
And we all went to church at the same time. And so the drill sergeants would come in. Anyone who wants to go to Protestant church, come get in formation. We'll march you down, whatever. So we get in formation, we go down. And it was actually right the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Because Thanksgiving is the day I got my phone. And that's the day I found out Mem was dying. And that, and that's when I had my last conversation, if that's what you want to call it, with her.
Yep.
And that really messed me up for a while. And then that Sunday, I went to church. And I was almost at the point where I was like, you know what? Now, Mem was never a really big part of my life, because I would really only see her on holidays and, every once in a while here and there. But at the same time, she was a big part of my life because you could always count her. She'd always be there Christmas.
Yeah.
She'd always be there birthdays.
Yep.
She would always, no matter what, she'd be there.
We go over Mem's house, and she'd be usually be
Yeah,
there.
you're sitting there, and she'd ask you, or you'd ask her, "Yeah, you want to play rummy?" And she'd sit there, run her mouth, play rummy with you, and then,
and she never asked you like there's any distance like you haven't seen. It's like when
Yeah.
you see her, it's like you just talked yesterday.
Right, and so when I realized that might be the last time I ever talked to her, and my high school graduation was the last time I'd ever see her, it really just put me in this headspace of like, what really matters? You know what I mean? Because I went off and I'm in basic and I'm trying to serve my country and everything, but I'm missing quality time with my dying grandmother.
Yeah.
And so it really put me in this weird headspace. So I went to church and I was like, I don't even really know if I want to go to church. And Barnhill, he was the guy who actually slept right under me. He was like, just come to church. It'll be okay, because I was talking to him about it. And so we go to church, and it was actually my personal company's chaplain that was giving the thing. And she was telling a story about how when her father was dying of cancer, how she learned that she didn't want her dad to die, but she learned that whether she wanted him to die or not, God was gonna do his plan. So whether it was her will or not, if God's plan was to take him, he was going to take him. If he was going to leave him, he was going to leave him. And I listened to the sermon, and it really, played to what I was going through at the moment. And at that point, because I didn't want Mem to go, obviously. Granted, she was up there in the years, and she wasn't comfortable or happy the way she was, but me selfishly, I didn't want to let her go. And so that would probably be my coming to God moment, was when like I realized no matter what I say, do or want,
don't matter, God has his plan.
He's gonna make it work out. And that's kind of my coming to God moment. Was until this day, whenever I pray for something, I say, God, if it's in your will, let this happen.
The thing that people don't realize is God has his plan. And he ain't saying, hey, I'm going to piss this person off and hurt them by taking this person. That's not the way it is. He has his plan for each person.
Right.
And, like, we don't know it, but he already knows when we're all going to die. And when he's going to take us. So it's a matter of, he ain't doing to hurt the people around you. He has a plan for you, and he needs you when he calls you.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that we need to do as humans, which is hard, I'll admit. It's hard for everybody. When somebody dies, we celebrate it and mourn it like it's a bad thing. And that's a problem here. We shouldn't celebrate it like it's a bad thing. What we should be doing is celebrate it as a good thing.
Actually,
they moved off to a better life.
Actually, I don't remember which specific nationality it is, but there is a Latino tradition that when someone dies, you actually get their body taxidermied.
Yeah.
Or at least like put in a position where you can't really tell they're dead too much, and you have a party for I think it's a weekend, where you literally, whatever house they lived in, or you could do their parents' house, whatever is chosen. Let's say there was actually one guy so we would do this for him too, who liked to play cards or bingo or something. They sat him at his kitchen table, and he had a hand of cards in his hand, and he'd sit there, and people would come through, and they'd have like a mini party as if he wasn't dead.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of their, you had a good life, kind of like a retirement party.
Yeah.
You were here for a while, you did a good job, you weren't a bad person, and
if I remember
I hope you have success in your later journeys.
If I remember right, the ancient Mayans, I think it's them, when they died, they had a week-long party for the dead. And it was a big celebration. They call it the Pass It On celebration. It's a big party celebration to remember their life and to wish them off to good afterlife.
Right.
And it was a big party where they'd actually get drunk and they'd have a good time, and there wasn't crying, there wasn't mourning, there was sending them off. It was a big send off. And they cremated the bodies.
Right.
And it was a big celebration for it. That's the way it should be. But unfortunately, somewhere over the things, it turned into this big sad, they died. But it's more of a, not so much sad that they died, passing on. It's more of a selfishness of, we don't want to be without them, so we're going to be sad and we're going to cry and we're going to make a big scene.
And actually, I just heard this song today in this car with Michaela that kind of sums that up perfectly, is When I Get Where I'm Going by Brad Paisley featuring Dolly Parton. And I was actually sitting there listening, and that's a song I haven't heard in a little bit. I used to love this song, but I haven't heard it in a little bit. I was sitting there and I was thinking, and it said, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here.
Yeah.
And it's talking about, like, when I get where I'm going, I'm going to go see my grandfather. And he's, we're going to walk together. I'm not going to have to slow my pace for him or anything like that. We're going to be equal.
And that's the truth. That song is a really good song. There's a couple songs, actually, kind of similar on that same...
Right, on the same topic, yeah.
Same type of topic of dead, and when you die, and not to cry for me, basically celebrate me.
Right.
Basically, with the podcast, we want to get into so many different subjects. But we will obviously want to get into what you want to hear, what you need to know.
Right, we don't do this for us. We do this more for you.
Yeah, we don't look to get any gain out of it. Yes, I am an ordained minister. I do eventually, been really thinking about it when I get to the time, when I get to shop my business, my actual money that pays my bills, going to where I need it and I can walk away from it some. I do want to get to the point where I want to open my own church.
You're going to be called Fifth Dimension House of God.
That's not a bad name. Anyways, but my church, I'm going to make it so much different than other churches to where I'm going to welcome people that need the help.
Right.
You're a prostitute, come on in, be a member. You're a drug addict trying to recover, come on in, you're a member.
Right.
You're a major sinner, get your butt in here, let's heal you. I'm not the one who's going after the perfect people. I'm going after the damaged people, because
they're the ones who need us.
The ones who are not damaged like bad. I mean, we all sin, but there's some people who sin more than others. There is people that need God more than others. I mean, we all need God, but there's some people that know God and know how to get to God and have that relationship with God. And those are the ones who go to church a lot. Now, there's the people that want to get to that point, but they don't know how. Or they have a lot of misleading roads or whatever, but they want to be saved. Those are the people that we are trying to reach out to and get to.
Right.
I want everybody to be saved. If it was a perfect world in my mind, there will be no hell. We will defeat the devil. We'll kick his little red butt right back down to the core of the earth. And there'll be no more evil. If it was my way.
Definitely.
Fortunately, that will never happen. God even admits and says that there's just people you can't save. No matter how hard you try, there's some people you ain't gonna save. They don't want to be saved. And that's fine. That's God gave us free will. That's their free will.
That's their prerogative.
That's to them. But my thing is I don't want people who want to be saved left out in the cold.
Right.
If you want to be saved and you want to know God, you want to know the Bible, and you want to know how to get to heaven, that's who I want. I want to take you there. I want to teach you how to be where you need to be to go there. Because here's the thing. We can be saved at any point of our life. You can actually be saved on your deathbed to where you can get saved to go to heaven and have a lasting life. Problem is, we don't ever want to wait to that day of our deathbed. Because we may not have exact deathbed that we have time to be saved.
Right, you might just be walking down the street and get hit by a stray bullet or something.
Or hit by a car, bang, you're done. You don't have time to be saved. So you don't want to wait to that point to be saved. You want to start longer and earlier. And a good movie is, and about talking about being saved at the last minute, is, what is it? Is God really dead?
God is not dead.
Oh, God is not dead. If you watch that movie, this professor, the whole movie is an atheist.
Spoiler alerts.
Yeah, a little spoiler alert. But he's a real big atheist. And he hates God, and he has a good reason. From a lot of pain, he went through some stuff like I did, and got to the point where he hated God because of stuff that happened in his life. Well, without spoiling it, it shows you in that movie that you can be saved at the last minute. And I ain't gonna tell the scene because I don't want to be a spoiler if you haven't seen it. But you can be saved at the last minute, and it proves it shows it in this movie. It's a good way to show that there's ways to get redemption, and there's ways for salvation at the last minute.
Right.
But in the movie, all the things were perfect at the end to get salvation at the end. But it don't always work like that in life.
So this can be one of these few questions can be our closing points, but this is kind of a more of who are we and what we're about. So far that we have recorded, including this episode, what's your favorite? Which one do you think has either A, made the most impact, or B, was the most fun and like you enjoyed the most?
I don't know. I have a few of them. I'll honestly say the one with Nate.
I was gonna say that.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
Obviously, with me and Nate being friends, and like the message he had to give, like being in the military. I mean, he had some pretty strong. You guys, he didn't even say about his life, but he's had so much. He had so much stuff in his life where he could hate God right now.
Yeah, and that's something that I noticed
that we never touched on.
A couple weeks after we recorded, I was listening to it and I was like, Nate never really talked about his personal life all that much, did he?
No, he didn't talk about. Well, he talked a little bit about his family, but not his bigger family, where his brother was murdered by his best friends and that, and how his family actually come to forgive the murderers.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most godly thing in the world.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know if I could do it.
Most people can't, but that's the most godly thing you can do right there, because God says love everybody, including your enemy, as you love yourself. So we didn't go on to that subject. We stayed pretty much between his personal family and the military life.
Right.
But that was a great episode. I also loved the episode with Mr. Mark.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Mark, I just love talking to Mr. Mark. Mr. Mark is like, he's always upbeat. He's always happy.
Yeah, he is.
And he always comes with so much knowledge. The knowledge that man has about
you'll never have a conversation with him without learning something.
Exactly. And I just love talking to Mr. Mark every week. I look forward to talking to him at church because he always has so much knowledge. But he also has so much inspiration that he always gives. Like, his first thing whenever I see him, hey, how's the shop going? I hope he's busy. It's not, oh, it's nice of you to finally show up, or, it's always something upbeat, good. You tell him the shop is doing great, and he's like, oh, great, I'd love to hear it. I'm sending people, I got this to go to. And he's always that, and if you say, hey, it's kind of slow right now, and he's like, kind of slow? I got 5 cars I'll bring to you right now. It turns it into a positive, to where we've had times when I went to church, and he's like, hey, how's business? It's kind of slow. Well, you know what? I need a tune-up and this done on my truck and this done and this done. And he drops off 4 vehicles.
When I'm not even really sure he does. He just
wants to make sure everybody... And he's just that type of guy. He just wants to see everybody make it. And he knows just so much about the church and stewardship and the Bible. And the thing is what people don't realize is how much Mr. Mark actually does for the church and for outreach, and how much he really does for the community. And he does so much ministering to everybody without getting any recognition for it.
Right. He's a very
man.
Yeah, he's a very fly under the radar. There's been a few times where I noticed, he did something like there was one time it was a VBS, Vacation Bible School. We do it every summer, and I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but I remember there was a few different people freaking out because something was missing. I don't remember what, but it was a big part of what we were doing that day. He went and made a makeshift thing and just saved the day. And it kind of went unnoticed.
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of oh yeah, cool. And then, they were too busy and kind of to really get the recognition.
How many times have somebody said, "Hey, Mr. Mark, come up here," and he's like, "Yeah, no."
Yeah, he's like, I'm good.
There's been many times I know I've talked to Pastor Tony, his brother, and even Pastor Dan, where they needed a speaker to do the sermon, like on a Wednesday night or whatever. And they'd ask Mr. Mark and say, "Hey, you want to do this week's Bible study?" Mr. Mark said, "Nah, I'll pass." He don't want to be on the front stage. He wants to be the man in the back pulling the strings and making everything happen.
Right.
And I applaud him. Mr. Mark is a great guy. But that was another powerful episode. Top of that, without the guests,
right?
What episode would I think would be?
Yeah, what was your personal favorite out of it, where it's just us?
I'm trying to remember. Let's see. My episodes are blending right now in my head because you put me in a spot. So.
That's right. I kind of put myself on the spot. I didn't know I was gonna ask that question until 5 minutes ago.
So, but once you said that, all the episodes are and I'm like, oh, this episode, no, that was that episode, no, this was that episode. I would have to say the one that we did about the crucifixions weekend and the rise of Jesus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think we really got into some pretty.
You're talking
good
about
stuff.
the Who Was Jesus one? Who was Jesus?
And we talked about how he got crucified.
And how he came back.
And the resurrection. That one's the most powerful to me because to me, too, that is a very powerful turning point to me in the life of God, in the life of the Bible, because it's at that time when during the Jesus era and the crucifixion, I don't know, it just means the most to me because that's when God showed how much he loved us. That was the first time in the history other than Adam and Eve that God really showed he loved us as people, because he gave his only son to die as a sheep to save us, our sinning souls, because he knows that we're all dirty little heathens and we're sinners. So he gave his son to die to clean our souls. And I don't know, that's just the most powerful thing. And I love this song, I can't remember the name of the song. I think it's When Death Got Arrested.
Yeah.
It's a song.
And they go when death was arrested. Yeah.
That to me is so powerful because it just shows that, I could see it now. Jesus beaten. He's he's on a cross and they're crucifying him and it's whatever, they're beating him. And I can see the devil in the background. There you go, God, giving God the middle finger, saying, I won.
We'll see.
And then all of a sudden they bury him in the devil for 3 days. He's like, yee-haw, I won. Screw you, I won. And then all of a sudden Jesus arises from the dead and says, devil, go back to your hole. You're done. To me, that it just sounds so powerful because it's the day that he basically took all our hearts out of our chest, wrung them out, said, get out of there, you dirty little devils. Put it back in and said, you guys are good. All you have to do when you die, follow me, acknowledge me, teach what I've been teaching you. When you come to heaven, you come to me. And I will take you to my Father and will sit you on the throne next to him.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it just took all the gloves off. It took all the bureaucratic red tape out of the whole mix. And it basically gave us, you love Jesus with all your heart. You tell your friends, you tell your neighbors, and you love your neighbors, and you love your enemies. You're going to heaven. And there's no question about it. It don't matter what you've done, you're going to heaven if you do these couple simple rules.
Right.
We can be sinning little heathens, but you make commandments.
And one of my favorite songs that they play at our church that kind of has the same idea to the one you were talking about. I don't remember the name of the song, but I know it goes, now death, where is your sting?
Yeah.
Our resurrected king.
Yeah, I love that one too. But I mean, it's just so powerful, that part. And for God to say, and Jesus even says it, we are all God's children.
Mm-hmm.
Think of that. You are God's children. We are all God's children. Think of that. I don't know about you, but I'm not worthy to be his child.
Mm.
I'm not worthy for Jesus to have died for my sins.
Right.
I don't feel worthy. I'm a dirty heathen.
Right.
And it don't matter. He don't care.
No.
Lepers walked up to him. These are disgusting, nasty, decaying people walking up to Jesus where anybody else would be pretty much just kicking them away and stabbing them and beating them for coming even within 20 feet of them. And Jesus says, no, come here. Come here, sir. Come with me. Take my hand, I will heal you.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't say, pay me $1 million.
No.
He said, take my hand, I will heal you. The only thing I ask you to do is to go back to your priest and tell him what happened.
Exactly.
That's all he told him to do. And he healed 10 lepers.
Mm-hmm.
And only one thanked him.
I think, now this isn't an episode, but it's something that we did related to the show. I think my favorite thing that we've made was the deck of cards.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it's not an episode.
No.
But it's part of the Do You Know God grouping.
But it is great because it teaches you how you can learn about the Bible without having a Bible.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, here in America, we're pampered.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Definitely
have a Bible anytime you want. Now, you go over to Iraq or Iran and you pull out a Holy Bible, you may not be so lucky. You're going to fare like Jesus. You're going to wind up being tortured and killed.
Well, yeah, and I remember...
Same with Korea. If you go to North Korea, you show a Bible, you're killed. You're dead.
Uh-huh.
Same with China. You're dead. There's a lot of countries where they do not... They have no forgiveness for anybody who does Christian Bible stuff.
And I remember when I first heard that, it was in Boy Scouts. And one of my good friends, Avery, he actually told it. Like, in Boy Scouts, that was his thing.
Yeah.
He was the one who did the deck of cards. No one else did it. It was him. And I remember the first time he said it. Now, he adapted it to Boy Scouts where...
Yeah.
But I was sitting there and I was like, that's very interesting. I was like, the fact that all of it makes sense, the fact that it all lines up, And I was sitting there, and I told him, I was like, where did you get that? And he told me how he heard it from someone else. And it was one of those things where when I told you about it and you asked me to look it up, I really didn't know if I was going to be able to find it. Because the way he explained it to me was people just pass it down. And it's one of those things.
Well, luckily, with the modern age of YouTube,
someone put it up there. Yeah.
Everything is on YouTube.
And
if you want to find out anything, you can find it on YouTube.
And I actually remember sitting there in the shop when because we wrote down a few different ideas we had for topics for the podcast, and one of them was deck of cards. And you're like, what is this? I showed it to you. I remember. I was like, when you liked it a lot, I was like, okay, maybe it's not just me. Maybe it is actually really good.
It is really good. I like it. That is a good one too. That is good. I mean, that's a good one to teach.
Right, and it's something so simple that you could teach a little kid that.
And it's easy to remember. I mean, I still remember it.
Right.
And I mean, that was what?
3
months ago?
And it took you like, what, an hour to memorize it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice and it's good and it's easy. So, I like that. And it's a good way to kind of understand a little bit about the Bible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hope you viewers feel the same, that we are putting out some good stuff.
Yeah. We're definitely, now, the thing is our content may be a little long. And we may go over the same topics, you know, and say the same thing 50 times.
We may get off subject from time to time.
Yeah, and so we're definitely not the best creators out there on YouTube.
I've never been known as a good speaker. Put it that way.
Neither have I.
You won't see me on a stage in front of a million people giving that highlight speech that everybody's like, wow, that was awesome.
Right.
That ain't me.
No, definitely. I'm the same way. And but we're definitely coming out with good content, good quality content.
And I just want you people to understand, you are God's children.
Yeah.
Everyone. You're an atheist, it don't matter. You're God's children. He still loves you. You're just a redheaded stepchild of God.
And see, and the thing is with us, we don't care about the views. You know, to a degree. Like, obviously we want more views because that means we're reaching more people.
Yeah, well, we don't care about the views per se as far as for our status.
Right.
We care about the views because we want you guys to get the knowledge.
Exactly. And like, as far as the views and the popularity, we don't want that. We don't want to be one of those people where, like, you know, we have people hitting us up all the time and spamming our comments and all that. We want to stay us and just be able to speak the word of God.
But we want to reach you that need it. So,
exactly.
I mean, if there's a million views, great. I would love a million views. But don't give me a million views because you think I'm a friend or something like that.
Right, don't sit there and refresh it 1,000 times.
Give me a million views because you're learning something.
Exactly.
And it's giving you to know God. And also, if you're getting that knowledge, please comment. Let me know. Don't thank me. I'm not asking for a thank you. But say, hey, you know what? I listened to that episode. I liked it. But, hey, can you help me out? I need to know a little bit more about the crucifixion. Or I need to know a little bit more about the resurrection. Or I need to know a little bit more about Matthew.
Right. And
what was about Matthew? Matthew was the tax collector.
And if we say something and you don't fully pick up on it, we have all of our social media and forms of contact aside from our personal numbers in the link linked in the description. So if you don't want to post it in the comment section, that's fine. I know my Instagram's on there. I know I have a Twitter on there. I have a Facebook on there. Dad has a Facebook. He has Instagram. We have the podcast email that we made specially just so you guys could email us with your questions. So there's plenty of ways to reach out if you don't feel like doing it publicly on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, just let us know. I mean, I want as many people, and I don't care about your background. You don't have to give me your background ever.
Right.
I don't need to know where your sins are.
You don't have to explain yourselves to us.
I will love you any way you are, and I will love on you, and I will help you to get to where you can love God as I love God, and get you to the point to where Jesus did not die in vain.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. We don't want to know that Jesus died in vain and gave us all this and took our sins only for us not to love him back and give him the respect he deserves. You know, you're talking about a guy, he was born a human, and without asking for anything, kings feared him. As a baby, big kings, powerful kings feared him and wanted him dead as a newborn.
Just the thought of him being alive made kings quiver.
He had no army, yet the kings feared him. He didn't have no slaves and no employees, but people called him master. He didn't have a degree, yet people called him teacher. He didn't have a lot of education, where people call him teacher. He did not go to no Bible school, and he's considered a prophet. He did not have a medical degree of any which kind, yet he healed lepers. He healed demons out of hookers. He brought the dead back to life. He did so much medical miracles. He made the cripple walk. He made the blind see without being a doctor. And basically, he was a man, but he is the King of Kings.
Yeah.
He's the Lord of Lords.
Yeah.
You know what? In his life, he never asked for recognition of that. But he deserves more than that. Because he is the only truly living God. He is the only thing ever to walk on this earth that was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We could only wish we was half as perfect as what he was.
So with all that being said, what do you want your comment section this week to be?
I would like I'd like people to comment. One, I want to hear what episode was your best episodes.
Yeah, what was your guys' favorite?
Tell us why you think is your favorite up to this date. Also, I want to hear. Give me comments. Give me subjects. Give me something that
what's weighing on your heart
out of your life, or you know what? Even if you want to know how to hear God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not saying no expert of, you know what, this is what God sounds like. But you know what? I've heard God.
Yeah.
He spoke to me many times. I know what to look for when he speaks to me. And sometimes it's as subtle and as stupid as a certain thing shows up that you're looking for in your mind. It's something so small, like a check showing up when you're broke. All of a sudden you find this mysteriously check for $700 that was owed to you 6 months prior, and you find it 3 days before it's expired. That is a talk from God. I don't know if that is not a message from God. I don't know what is.
I believe in coincidences. Some things are too coincidental to be coincidences.
Yeah, and I mean, it depends on how much. I mean, there's one thing of a coincidence that happens here and there, but when it happens,
if you see it consistently,
after day, after day, after day. I mean, look, I'm on my second auto repair shop I opened. I was very blessed with the one up in Connecticut, but that one was kind of easy a little bit because I knew everybody. I was already working on all the cars at the dealerships. I was working on the cars after hours at my house, you know? I had the customer base up there. People knew me. I grew up there, born and raised there. And now we opened a second shop down here. I knew nobody.
Right.
And look how big we're growing. We're growing so big, I can't hire techs fast enough to get these customers done.
Yeah.
It's sad, but it's
a
blessing, but it's a curse at the same time.
That's another reason this episode is so late is, this is only my second week back. And it's
the hours we've been putting in is insane.
Yeah,
trying to get stuff done.
It's crazy.
But I mean, that's blessings from God. That's God blessing us. Like, I will tell you, God will not give you earthly things. He will not give you money per se of $1 million gonna make you rich, and He ain't gonna give you earthly things like He ain't gonna give you a sex partner or
brand new PlayStation.
Yeah, brand new PlayStation or $1 million yacht or
right.
He ain't gonna give you that, but He will give you what you need.
Exactly.
And the other thing that He will give you is if you love God and you believe in God, He gives you an aura. And what they mean by an aura is He gives you something out of your soul that you emanate.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe, which is gonna attract people, which is gonna give you your earthly things that you want.
And God will not put you in a situation that you can't handle.
Exactly.
So if you feel like, everything's just going bad and there's no good in the world and all that, it's for a reason.
It's for a reason, but here's the deal. Stop what you're doing. Talk with God and say, God, this is the easiest way. God, please give me the strength to survive this storm. I am at your mercy. And now guess what? You'll be through the storm. He's going to help you through it. Because remember this. There's a reason God put you in the middle of the ocean in the storm. Because your enemies can't swim. That is like one of the most powerful phrases I ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like, God, why do you have me in the middle of the ocean during this storm? And He's coming back and He says, my child, it's because your enemies can't swim. That's powerful. That just gave me goosebumps just listening to it.
Yeah.
We look at the bad of it, but we're not looking at what the good out of it is. I mean, if He didn't have you there, you probably would have been trampled dead by the devil. He's keeping you safe in the storm.
Mm-hmm.
So all you do, you don't ask Him to finish the storm. You ask Him to give you strength to weather the storm. And He will help ease the burden and help you through.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope you all have a great weekend.